Hey, Brad, so let me ask you this. In getting to I Am Stephen Hawking, was that one, was he one of the, like every so often you'll say, this one was so requested, or, somebody will come out and go, where's my hero? Where's the hero that represents me? What was it in the case of, or was it just his story? Which one was it for you to do I Am Stephen Hawking?
Yeah, this one was a little of both. He wasn't like the most in demand, but we definitely had people requesting saying, hey, can you do someone with a disability? Right? Like that's the thing. And the other part is Chris Eliopoulos, our incredible artist who, obviously his art style is the secret weapon of these books because it looks like Charlie Brown meets Calvin and Hobbes. He's the biggest super space nerd. Like he was the one who requested Neil Armstrong. He's the one who requested Stephen Hawking. So Chris has been begging to do another kind of space physics, that thing. And so we look at them and it's just like, when the time is right. And it just seemed like, and I'll tell you a big part of it also is it's political too. And that is we're watching our politicians, or at least one of them, who's going out and saying, he's always right. He's always got the answers. Everyone agrees with me. And one of the things for me, this is me personally, that I love about Stephen Hawking is he's like the smartest man in the universe. And he comes up with this theory of black holes that says black holes are always expanding. And everyone's like, you're right. Wow, that's amazing. That's true. And then later he's like, I was wrong. They're not always expanding. Like they actually can contract too. And I purposely put a page in the book that says, the best scientists always keep asking questions and acknowledging that you may be wrong. Real intelligence means you're willing to admit you may be wrong. And that's the smartest person in the room. And I need to teach my kids that because certainly our politicians aren't.
The other thing that I love is that, I don't know a ton about Stephen Hawking's background, but you go through it, and then obviously we'll get to it, and you get to it in the book where he falls down and there's something wrong, and that kind of starts the turn into ALS. But growing up, it's like people always said I was like the smartest, one of the smartest thinkers ever. He cried all through school because he missed his parents. He had miserable handwriting. He was the last one picked for sports teams. He was that guy that was that kind of felt, I don't want to say insecure. Well, yeah, I guess a little insecure. Didn't matter, but he was a normal kid in so many ways.
Listen, when he's 12 years old, one of his schoolmates makes a bet that he'll never be successful. That's not just being picked last on the team. It's like, I'm going to bet you're going to be a failure. And that's a lesson. Listen, one of my kids went through a bullying issue. I wrote that for him, even though he's past it. But I know that there are thousands of other kids out there who need to know that they don't have to be the smartest. And everyone, the series, as you know, is called Ordinary People Change the World. And people will write me every once in a while and be like, why are you calling it that? Einstein's not ordinary. Stephen Hawking's not ordinary. I'm like, you're missing the point. They absolutely are.
Right.
I acknowledge that these guys have brains and that lead into incredible things. But make no mistake, they're going through life the exact same way we all are, which is fumbling our way through it. And I need my kids to look at that and know what it's like to be that underdog, to be considered weird, to be considered, there's a line that says sometimes it can be hard when you're different. It's one of the most important lines in the whole book because, man, we all have a moment where we feel different. And I need my kids to know that that's okay too.
Hey, by the way, the kid that bet him that he wouldn't be successful, do we ever know, did that kid ever approach Stephen Hawking and give him a bag of candy?
I mean, I have written so many imaginary stories of what happened to that kid. What horrors have fallen on that bastard child. That kid is the worst. I'll bet you a bag of candy that this kid's a failure. He's like Johnny from Karate Kid mixed with every bad guy in every 80s movie wears a sweater over his around his neck. But I have no idea what happened to him. I wish I knew. And
I also like one of the things that gets pointed out is that, yeah, sometimes it's hard when you're different, and that does stand out. I love how it also talks about just his curiosity in general and the whole family's curiosity, which was kind of, I don't want to say bred into him, but kind of just, he was always surrounded by it. Like where he talks about like his friends would come over for like sleepovers or something and they would be at dinner and his parents, everybody's just sitting there reading books and debating what's in the books.
Not only that, like I had to, you know, when you're writing a kid's book, you got to make it, of course, kid friendly. So one of the things the mom used to ask his friends was like, so what do you think about the modern state of religion? But one of the other things she'd be like is, what do you think of abortion? Like, I can't put that one in the book.
Right.
I can tell you that. But like, this is a family who's reading at the dinner table and you know, they called him eccentric. And I was like, it's just another word for weird. But that's okay too, man. Like, it's okay to be weird. Man, I want every kid that reads this book to know it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be eccentric. It's okay to be different. And if you just embrace that, you won. That's amazing thing that you can give as a gift, is to teach your kids that. And as parents, you know, I love, there's this moment where, and I should do this with my kids, which made me feel super smart, like, because Stephen Hawking's family did it with him. So I was like, oh, I think I just won Best Parent because I didn't know the story. But like, I used to take my kids on the grass and sit outside on our back and we'd look up at the clouds. And I used to say to them, tell me what you see in the clouds. I guarantee if you ask my kids right now, none of them will remember this.
Right.
They'll all be like, I don't remember that. But Stephen Hawking, when we used to do that with him, he used to be like, just ask questions like, where did it come from? Where do you think everything ends? Where does the universe end? Like, where does eternity come to an end? And he says this line, that's his line, it's not mine. Haven't you ever wondered, how can there be something without a finish? Wondering where eternity ends. And instead of being like, wow, that's a weird question, kid, or like, you know, just look at the clouds and enjoy, his mom was like, that's a beautiful question.
Oh, they nurtured that. They nurtured that like crazy.
Yeah, and that's why you get Stephen Hawking, right? You get it because that thing that makes him different than everyone else, instead of saying, hey, man, be like everyone else or keep that to yourself, they're saying, fantastic, fantastic.
Hey, you want to be childish for a second, Brad?
Have I ever not wanted to be?
I laughed hard when I read it in the book, so I'm assuming that either you knew it or when you learned it, the teacher that showed him the power of math, am I the only one that laughs when I get to Mr. Tata?
No, of course, it's the best. It's basically like it's like this time when, like, in one of the books we did, it was like, we tried 69 times, and I was like, oh, this is going in the book. Like, that's it. It's going in.
But I also
you can't not.
But like when he gets to college, and again, I didn't know this. He's a big party animal in college. Yeah. He didn't have any friends. He went young. He was 17 years old. He joined the boat club. He throws them off course because he can't get that right. And you even point out like that the moment where everything kind of turns is, I get what'd you say? It was like towards his senior year of college, and he fell down the steps. He didn't know why, but he started to lose control of his body. And the first thing the doctors say to him is like, son, you need to stop partying so hard.
Oh, they literally think it's because you're a party, you know, you're just drinking too much. And so, and then over the next year, and at this point, you know, he's 21. He's like almost 21. He's 20 years old. He basically gets so nervous, he stops telling anyone. He keeps all of his fears to himself. He's like, why is my hand shaking? You know what? I'm not telling anybody. And then at Christmas, he falls down while he's ice skating, and he doesn't know how to get back up. And his mother's like, okay, you're done. You're going to the doctor. And this is the moment that I think is, you know, where Chris Eliopoulos, our artist on the book.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in?
Take it. Go.
The best 2 pages in the book, they are completely black, except on the bottom right-hand corner of the second page, sitting on a little table, is Stephen Hawking and his doctor, and that's where he finds out that his whole life has changed.
And he says, like, the doctor says to him, like, he's like, my arms and legs aren't going to work. The rest of my body is going to stop working. He's like, I'm sorry. And they tell him right there at the bottom of this black page, they told me I had 2.5 years to live.
Right.
And Chris, like, I can make that in a big scene or put a doctor's office, but Chris puts it all in black, and you just, you know, and you want kids, you know, to feel like, oh my gosh, this is really what's he going to do? And the best part, of course, is you see that the guy, it winds up in the breakthrough to everything. Because now, at 21 years old, he's like, I'm not going to party anymore. Now I want to work. I want to accomplish so much more. My time is 2 years. I have hope now because this disease is breaking my body, but the one thing it's never going to touch is my brain. And that is it, man. That's the moment.
Hey, do people know enough about, like, I didn't know this, but like, I didn't know he was a party animal in college. Like, I didn't know any of that. Like, when he got his wheelchair, he takes it to San Francisco and goes speeding up and down all the hills of San Francisco. That's freaking awesome to me.
No, listen, that's why I put in the book. I'm like, this is awesome. I didn't know he was a party animal either. I was like, whatever. I grew up with Stephen Hawking like you grew up with Stephen Hawking, which is he's so smart. He's in a wheelchair. He has a robot voice, and, he's smarter than everybody else. But the guy wanted to live. The whole reason he's Stephen Hawking is because he's like, man, I got a little time left. I'm making the most of it. And he's got the big brain, but it's his attitude toward everything. And the thing that actually blew me away more than anything in the whole book is that it's his actual disability that makes him great at what he does. Because he couldn't write stuff down and he couldn't type and he had to move so slowly, he said he basically had more time to think and he had to explore the universe in a different way which is in his mind. He had to think in pictures because he couldn't write anymore. Other physicists would write and draw and do formulas. He couldn't do that. So he'd mentally travel through time and space, and that's why he has his breakthroughs. And so his disease gives him skills that no one else has. And again, when we all have things in our lives that knock us down, right? Whether it's a parent or someone passing away, whether it's, there are big things and little things with our kids and our nieces and our nephews and all these things that go on. But man, to teach them that you can embrace those hardships and turn them into something that's a benefit. I can say those words, but no one believes me. But you show the work of Stephen Hawking and there's proof of it, proof like actual science of it.
Hey, Brad, I know you do your homework very well, but you also will talk about like whether it's Jane Goodall or Billie Jean King who are alive, or if it's somebody that you've written about who is dead, that you'll go to their foundation, their library, whatever it is. Who was your expert that kind of, I don't want to say proofread, but like who looked things over for Stephen Hawking?
Yeah, so we went to his estate, of course, and then I found a woman named Kitty Ferguson. And Kitty Ferguson is, she was a co-writer and one of the people who wrote books with him. I didn't even realize when I found her how close their relationship was. Is she, interviewed him, knew him intimately, the expert on Stephen Hawking. And again, it's always pretty amazing to talk to these people because you give them the book. And I, again, this is like a year and a half ago, but I'm pretty sure what her comment was to us is like, and I can send it to you, but it was like, I think Stephen would really like this book a lot. And that's the comment where you're like, oh, wow, I'm done working for the week. Like, that's it. Because you don't expect to get that, I hope it's going to be right. I hope, for me, I was just like, can you just make sure the physics is right? Because I can't do physics. Like, that's, I'm trying to get it. But when she says that, because, the book has a sense of humor, because the book is playful, the book doesn't take itself too seriously.
Right.
When she says that, again, that's when you're just like, okay, day's over. Like, that's it.
All right, let me bounce around a little bit. So I was looking on the website and going over stuff, and obviously I Am Stephen Hawking is out today. But I saw on the site that the next two books you've already announced that are coming. One of them is the one that you had kind of texted me about last time. So the next two on the list are I Am Sally Ride, and then you're doing We Are the Beatles, which I love. I love that that's getting done. But how do you get that done? Like, there are some bad moments, or let me rephrase it. There are some non-kid moments around the Beatles.
Yeah, man. First of all, the Beatles, all of our books, like if you do I'm Abraham Lincoln or like Earhart, they always look the same, right? It's a little Abraham Lincoln, even Stephen Hawking. We show them a little bit. We talk to people who are disability experts. Like, do we show him in a wheelchair always in his kind of like ultimate view? Because Abraham Lincoln always has a little beard and a top hat. Like, what do we do with Hawking? And the disability experts said to us, like, you should show him that he wasn't in a wheelchair, because eventually he was. And those two things are true. So it was the first time we kind of broke our own rule.
Right.
And then we got the Beatles. And the Beatles never looked the same, right? Like, you have the version of them when they're singing Yeah, 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 and they're on the Ed Sullivan Show. And then you got the, what's the ultimate version? Is it Sgt. Pepper's? Is it Let It Be? Is it, when they're on the rooftop? Is it, and not only that, as you said, you're like, man, they're going and losing their mind. They're going to, figure out how the sitar sounds. And obviously we're not showing how they're trying out drugs and it's expanding their mind, but we're not ignoring, but you see in that section, let's just say that section's extra colorful, right? And so parents are like, if you know what's going on, I wrote to Chris, I have a text that I wrote to him and said, I think this book is going to kill you. And he was like, they all kill me. I'm like, but he knew, like, this one, every page that you turn almost is a new style, because the whole thing about the Beatles is that they're constantly evolving, and we had to show all. And I'm like, when I say we show all of it, it's like Yellow Submarine and Help and like Revolver, and they're using reverb, and now they're changing sounds and they're changing looks, and like the White Album, like it's just, we put all of it in there. And I love that it's all in there.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Hey, the other thing that I saw, and I don't think I knew this about you, Brad. I don't know that I knew that you knew James Earl Jones.
Oh, yeah. I met him in Washington, D.C., actually. So when I was and here's the full story, which I didn't even put on the internet. So I knew always that James Earl Jones went to Michigan, because when I was at Michigan, they had a little welcome video that he made. That was like a little thing that would show students when you worked at like the university, they would show you this video. And I worked at the university as a job there, and it went, the University of Michigan is a fine institution, and in the awesome James Earl Jones voice. And I remember everyone was like, that's Darth Vader, man. Darth Vader went to Michigan.
Hey, totally. And not to interrupt, Brad, but your James Earl Jones is impeccable. Like you really
right,
nailed that.
Pretty much, I'm kind of like Darth Vader. Basically. Someone just put the radio on and they were like, oh my gosh, James Earl Jones is alive again.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I interrupted. So now I graduate. I'm 22. I'm in D.C. And I happen to spot James Earl Jones at this event, and I beeline for him because I'm like a Star Wars nerd. And I think most people, when they see him, probably blurt out something like, I am your father or something like that. But it was the first famous person that I've ever remember seeing. I was 22. I had just gotten to D.C., and I blurt out to him without even saying hello. I go, I went to Michigan. I go, the University of Michigan is a fine institution. And as soon as I say it, I'm like, oh no, I just did James Earl Jones to James Earl Jones. And like, I just did poor James Earl Jones to James Earl Jones. And he smiles, that awesome smile, like the Field of Dreams smile. And he loves it. And he asked me about, my going there and when I graduated, blah, blah. It's the greatest moment. I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted. Now flash forward to a couple months ago, I find out I'm giving the commencement address at Michigan this year. Right.
So I'm like, and if you look closely, the day of the address is May the 4th, which is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And I'm not stupid. I'm like, I got a finale. I know I'm going to do the finale that I'm going to put on the speech, but I also was like, I know I'm going to close this speech, and James Earl Jones, I'm going to see if he can record something for me to close the speech. And I contact him, and it takes me like, I'm not joking, a month to get through all the people and the lawyers and the paperwork. And one of his lawyers is really nice and basically puts me in touch with his assistant who asks James Earl Jones, and James Earl Jones says, yes, I'm with you, Brad. I'm like, oh my God. I tell him the whole story. That's how I get to him. And he, on the day that he's going in to finally record it, they say, we're going in tomorrow. We'll speak to you tomorrow. I'll send it to you tomorrow, on like electronically. And they call me the next morning and they're like, I'm so sorry. He's fallen ill and he's really, really sick. And I knew for the past months how sick he was. And obviously, for his privacy purposes, never said a word. But to have a moment where I got to thank him for being so nice to me when I was 22 years old was the best gift I was able, that I ever got was, get to thank that man for being so cool when I was just a kid.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What a great story. Also, you mentioned the commencement speech. How unbelievable is it that part of the Michigan game day hype video features your commencement speech?
I mean, so here's the thing is I obviously do this commencement address. It's one of the, when I give this speech, there's a surprise ending when I graduated and graduated Michigan in the stands. The commencement speaker called out Desmond Howard, who won the Heisman that year. And basically Desmond Howard in the stands, like 10 rows from me, I didn't know him at the time, stands up because he won the Heisman that year and does the Heisman pose. And I remember, like, as again, a 22-year-old kid, I was like, man, that's badass. That Desmond Howard sitting 10 rows diagonally in front of me. So at the end of my speech, I talked about how, like, I was 22 years old sitting in these stands watching Desmond Howard. And now here I am. I'm, in my 50s and, like, and here we are again. Like, how do you get from 22 to stand on the stage? And at the end of the thing, I say, and ladies and gentlemen, it's all about magic and finding magic in our lives. And I say, but the best magicians have a final trick up their sleeves. I said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Desmond Howard. And Desmond Howard comes out on stage. And then we have two of the other Michigan football players come on stage. And I, at the time, I'm speaking to 70,000 people in the Michigan Stadium. I realized after the fact that I had leaned forward when Desmond comes out because it was like a hurricane of cheering and love for him that I leaned forward because I thought I was going to be knocked on my rear end because it was like standing in a hurricane. And the end of it, I'm screaming into the microphone, not because I want to be a good hype man, but because I can barely hear myself. The screaming is so loud. You can't really hear it in the video as much when you watch it on YouTube. But I have access to 3 Jumbotrons and I can barely hear myself. And I'm like, it can't get better than this moment. It's bananas. And my son's in the audience graduating. It's one of the single greatest moments of my professional life. And then my son goes to the football game this year and he's watching the hype video, which is literally narrated by James Earl Jones.
Right.
And he has he literally says, the University of Michigan is the greatest university in the world. And like when they said to Coach Harbaugh, maybe that's like overstating things, the greatest university in the world. And he's like, nope, we're the greatest university in the world. Have you say it? And James Earl Jones says, and so everyone loves the hype video because it's so ridiculous. My son, you can watch on my Instagram. You could hear my son react. And I didn't know I was in it. And my son is at the game recording the video just because he wants to see the new video they do every year. And he sees me, his father, in it. And you hear him cursing, screaming like, oh, my God, he's effing in it. He's this. And like, and when I'm like, it can't get better, I'm like, how are we in the hype video with James Earl Jones? Like, so needless to say, no one loves Michigan more than my family does this year. Like, it's just been ridiculous.
All right, last 2 things, and then I got to let you jump. Number 1, you went to see Dead and Company at the Sphere in Vegas. Is it awesome? Like, I've never been in there. Is it awesome?
So here's the thing. So I'm not like some, big Deadhead or anything like that. I went because my buddy said, I got a box. It's free. Let's go. And I love my buddy and my friend, my high school friends. I'm like, there's no party like a high school party. And so my high school friends were like, let's go. I wanted to see you too. We couldn't make it like the weekend people were going. I'm like, fine, we'll go to the Dead. Like, just because I want to be with my friends. It was one of the single best concerts I've ever seen in my life because the Sphere is such madness. And not because of like, I don't care if you do drugs, don't do drugs. That's not my scene. My wife didn't recognize a single song that the Grateful Dead played. Not one, not even the cover songs. Like, not one song. And she was like, this is one of the best concerts I ever went to because, 1, we didn't have to pay for it. And 2, no, but seriously, it was just the Sphere is who's playing. When you're in Vegas, go there and watch the show. It doesn't matter. It's so, you have to go, Elliot.
Oh, I'm dying to go. I wanted to go to the NHL draft. That's all I wanted to do. I'm dying to go there.
Oh, that was cool. We watched it. They did an awesome job. Like when they put the players up there with the things, I was like, if I were a player, I'd be like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
And then lastly,
I mean, you're 70,000 feet, the thing you don't realize about the Sphere is when you go on a ride or you go see like, the widescreen things at like the science museums at IMAX, the sides of your vision and the top and bottom of your vision can see the walls and the ceiling and the floor. And so you're grounded by that. You know it's all fake because you have those edges. When you're in the Sphere, and the odd part is the higher up you are, the more you don't have those, there is no periphery. You're just surrounded by screen. And so when you're going up, the whole audience, now admittedly at the dead, half of them are totally like baked off their brains. But when you start rising in the air, literally start screaming. They're like, what's happening? Because it feels so real. It's awesome.
That's awesome. All right, lastly, when are you getting to D.C.? When am I seeing you?
I'm actually going to be, I'm going to be in Baltimore this weekend because my friend, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, I'm hosting her event in Baltimore this weekend. And we're unveiling, this is going to be the nerdiest thing. Baltimore Comic-Con it's one of my places. It's a place where awesome nerds come together.
If you don't fit in at the Dead Show, you do fit in at Comic-Con.
No, right. If you just say, where are your people? And you say you can choose between the Dead Show at the Sphere or Baltimore Comic-Con, I can tell you where I'm going. And wait, to out-nerd Baltimore Comic-Con, we're going to debut, we have our show on PBS Kids is Xavier Riddle and the Secret Museum, which is our kids' books. Like Stephen Hawking, they do a cartoon of it.
Right.
We're going to do the world premiere at noon on this Saturday at Baltimore Comic-Con of I Am Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the creators of Superman. And that is going to be where like the nerds at Baltimore Comic-Con are going to call us nerdy. Like it's so... It's going to be, and Chris is coming and I'm coming and obviously we'll sign books and do stuff there. But at noon, if you want to come to Baltimore Comic-Con. But I won't get to DC for that. But I will be there for JFK. I am for the JFK conspiracy book.
Oh,
in
dude,
January,
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that book.
Oh, yeah. The thing that you're going to love about the book, obviously it's the first plot to kill him. It's the original plot that no one knows about at the start of his presidency. But what's so good about the book is it's not just him, is so much of it, and you'll see why, is about Jackie.
Right.
And his story with Jackie, like Jackie is so fascinating and amazing. And, the Nazi conspiracy is obviously has this World War II epic thing that, the first conspiracy has the Revolutionary War. That's not there in JFK. It's a much smaller, in a good way, book. It's just about their marriage. It finally comes down to, and that's the fascinating part about him, is because obviously they're selling Camelot to the whole world, and they're selling the perfect life and the perfect wife and the perfect tan and the perfect smile. And of course, his life is anything but. So it just winds up being this kind of amazing look at this incredible family that is, as crazy as the rest of us and as secretive as the rest of us, but living in this amazing White House on Pennsylvania Avenue.
But still written like a thriller, right? That's what I loved about the other ones. It's a history book.
It opens up with a guy trying to murder him. Like, make no mistake. This is hardly, no. It is like a guy's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take all this dynamite and blow him up. Like, there's a guy, of course, from Florida. Thank you. It happens to everything that's crazy in Florida. But this guy in Florida who decides to take 10 sticks of dynamite and murder him. So yeah, that's I just ruined chapter 1 for you.
That's all right. I'll take it. All right. I Am Stephen Hawking. It is out and available today. Part of the Ordinary People Change the World series. Brad, I appreciate it. Good to talk to you, my friend.
Love you.
Love you too. Talk to you later. Thanks, bud.